Button. Good evening. I'd like to call to order the Town of Rocky Hill Zoning Board of Appeals meeting for Tuesday, March 21st, 2023. I would like to start, before we go into public hearings, I would like to note for the record that we did have a resignation of one of our alternates. Andrew Maiano had resigned, and taking his place is Joe Ham, correct?
Yeah, Hammond.
Hammond, okay. Well, welcome, Joe. Glad to have you.
Hi.
Okay. All right, and I'd like to go ahead and start with the public hearing. Actually, before we start with that, let you know any decision of this board can be taken to Superior Court within 15 days. And Mr. Secretary, could you please read for the public the legal notice, please?
Thank you. Legal notice, Town of Rocky Hill Zoning Board of Appeals. The Rocky Hill Zoning Board of Appeals will hold a public hearing on Tuesdays, March 21st, 2023, beginning at 7 p.m. in Room 2 of the Rocky Hill Community Center, 761 Old Main Street, Rocky Hill, Connecticut, 06067, to consider the following. A, Appeal 2023-01, Stepney Place LLC, requesting a variance from requirements of the Rocky Hill zoning regulations, Section 3.e, height and area requirements in an R20 zone, and Section 4.d.4, height limitations, RC zone, to allow for building heights of 40 feet where 35 feet is required for construction of 3 proposed 3-story multifamily buildings on property located at 1800 Celestine Highway in the R20 Residential District and the RC Regional Commercial District, ID 04412. Thank you.
Thank you.
Michelle, excuse me.
Yes, sir.
Before we get started, if we're having alternates act on this application, I think you're gonna have to name them and
Yes.
who they're
Correct.
taking place of.
Yes, thank
Okay,
you.
You're welcome.
We're going to go ahead, and Commissioner John Roderick is not here this evening. Voting in his place will be Commissioner Fran Whalen. Okay? Okay, I'd like to go ahead and start the public hearing. Please step up and state your name for the record, please.
Good evening, Madam Chairperson. And can I check with you and make sure this is on?
Yes,
It's working?
we're good.
We're good. My name is Robin Pearson. I'm an attorney with the law firm of Alter and Pearson in Glastonbury, Connecticut. And I'm pleased to be here this evening on behalf of the applicant, Stepney Place LLC. I have with me 2 members of the Stepney Place LLC. I'd like to introduce them for you. They may answer questions, but won't be actually doing the presentation itself. But first, I'd like to introduce Christine Victor, who is the Acquisition and Development Associate at Simon Conover Company. Stepney Place is owned by a close affiliation with Simon Conover Development or Simon Conover Company. It's one of its projects. And also here is Newt Brainerd, who is Vice President with Simon Conover Corporation or Company. And again, they're very familiar with this project. They're very excited about going forward and adding value to the property that Simon Conover owns through Stepney Place LLC at 1800 Celestine Highway. We have timely posted the sign on the property, giving notice of this particular hearing, and we have already submitted to Mr. Pomberg our certificates of mailing. If you look at sheet AP1, which was submitted with the application, you'll see that it has an outline of the property that is the subject of this application site, and it also has on AP1 a perimeter radius around the site of 200 feet which encompasses all of the properties for which notice was sent out. And I will just note for the record that the site itself, as you can see, is an odd shape. It's very long. It's over 9 acres in size, and it's located to the north of the Silas Deane Highway and to the south, if you will, of the Greenfield Village condominium, which is above it on this particular exhibit. The up front, just above the name Silas Deane Highway, you'll see the existing building. It's a 5-story apartment complex that has been a long-standing feature of the Silas Deane streetscape. And again, it's quite sizable. And what the applicant for the variance is interested in doing is continuing to build out on its property, that's one parcel, 1800 Silas Deane Highway, for additional multifamily housing. But I wanted you to note on that radius drawing, again, we're looking at AP-1, that Greenfield Village is above the site. That's really to the northwest of the site itself. And I should note for you that Simon Conover Company, through another one of its affiliates, actually owns over 80% of the units in that particular condominium. So there are 230 separate units in that development, of which, again, over 80% of that is owned by, affiliate of the same entity that also owns the Stepney Place site. To the left of the property are predominantly homes on Marshall Street, single-family homes. At the corner of Silas Deane, those are commercial properties. And on the right-hand side of the site, which is to the east, those are commercial properties. And of course, along Silas Deane Highway to the south of our site and across the street, those are also all commercial properties. So this site is sandwiched between the condominium, again, primarily owned by the same entity that owns this site, and commercial properties on Silas Deane. We sent out, and you should be aware of, I think it was 152 different owners received notice of this application. So it was well publicized within the community between both the sign on the property and the mailings that those property owners received with regard to this public hearing. The application that we're before you seeks some relief from the height limitation on this property. We're looking to be able to build to a 40-foot maximum height as opposed to a 35-foot maximum height. If you look at MA1, which is another exhibit that was submitted with the application, this is an aerial over which is superimposed the development that my client is interested in pursuing. The site itself, I mentioned already, is over 9 acres. It's 9.09 acres in size. It's split zoned, and this is one parcel. That entire 9 acres is one parcel. It is split zoned, with most of the zoning being in the R20, a single-family residential zone, and some basically on the eastern side of the site, to the right of your diagram, is in the RC, which is a regional commercial zone. Again, the existing development is a long-standing 5-story apartment complex, just under 50 feet in height, and it's 49-something feet in height, and was built many years ago. The desire is to be able to add 3 new multifamily buildings, 3 stories high, on the site, and you can see the outline of those buildings. To do that, the applicant will be taking down an existing commercial store structure, which is about midway along that long, narrow band, and has been used in the past, sometimes for daycare, sometimes office uses, but it's a vacant structure now. And the applicant is looking to reinvest in this site, add value, and add a lot of community amenities, which would also be able to be used by the existing Stepney Place apartment residents. In addition to the 3 buildings that are proposed, there'll be a sizable clubhouse, which will have a fitness center, work areas, the offices for the Stepney Place complex would be located in there also, and the site would be further built out to include other amenities such as gardens and sidewalks and areas to enjoy living on this property. The development itself is an allowed use. As we explained in our application, one of the things that makes this site unique is that you do have a 5-story apartment complex located in an R20 zone, and that would not be allowed today. It is an allowed use. Apartment or multifamily uses are allowed on this property by virtue of the fact that this development was in place, Stepney Place was in place as of 2006 when the town did a major rezoning. And it said that multifamily uses can continue on those properties on which multifamily in an R20 zone was already in place back at that time. So it's not the use that it's at issue here, it's only whether or not an additional 5 inches of height should be allowed. And the reason the applicant is seeking that additional 5 inches is to be able to put a peaked roof on the building rather than a flat roof. The applicant feels very strongly that a peaked roof is more attractive, it's more in keeping with the other peaked roofs in the residential uses in the area, and it would be a better development, the applicant feels, than building those 3 structures and having to have a truncated roof, if you will. We submitted with the application 2 diagrams which showed the differences between a flat roof and a peaked roof. And of course, the peaked roof is much more traditional in its appearance from the flat roof, which is more like what you might find for a commercial structure. But we don't think it looks as nice. We don't think it would be as beneficial for the community. I'll note on the record that I've been advised that it's certainly not a question of financial reasons for wanting to go to a peaked roof. Indeed, the peaked roof construction is more expensive than would be topping those buildings off with a truncated roof, a flattened roof instead of the peak. So the bottom line is that this relief from the zoning code would result in a more attractive structure. The site presents a unique situation, which is unusual. There are only a few apartment complexes in town that find themselves in this situation, and I dare say none of them find themselves in a situation where you have a 9-acre site, the bulk of which has not been developed, which needs to proceed under now the R20 zoning regulation, which caps height at 35 feet, as does the RC regulation. They both cap at 35 feet. If you look at those zones in town that do allow multifamily, such as the Business Park zone, Business Park 1 and Business Park 2, those do set stories. They have not only a height restriction, but a restriction on the number of stories or allowance for the number of stories. And if you take a look at, for instance, BP1 and BP2 allow 55-foot height for multifamily, and that would equate to a 4-story building. If you were to extrapolate from that and to divide the 55 by the 4 stories, you get something like a 13-foot height for each story. That regulation, as well as what would be allowed in the town center zone, accommodates the need for multifamily to have higher floor-to-ceiling ratios and to be able to accommodate peak roofs on those structures. So for those zones that specifically allow multifamily as a permitted main use, not something that sort of snuck in through the back door because it was approved by when the zoning regs were changed in 2006, and it happens to be an allowed use. But if you have a regulation that's designed specifically to allow good multifamily development, they allow more height. And all of your regulations that clearly allow multifamily use now have those higher allowable heights and heights for stories. And that's just because those regulations are specifically designed for good multifamily development, and they accommodate what the building codes would require, and to be able to have an attractive roof on top of the structure. If you look around town, I would note that, for instance, the town recently approved the Ames building development, and that is a peaked roof, and that does allow a height that would be commensurate with what we're looking for here. I know the Altera development on Brook Street, which is a 3-story structure, multifamily, that has a peaked roof. And again, that it's appropriate, it looks good, it fits well into the area, and we feel that this variance would allow the same thing to happen. We want it to blend in with the residential uses that are in the area. It really comes down to the uniqueness of the situation in which we find ourselves, and the desire to have something that makes sense both for the neighborhood and also for this development to achieve the highest quality. Again, we're talking about 5 inches maximum for the peaked roof for these. This is not a hardship that was created.
It's 5 feet.
5 feet.
I said 5 feet?
You said 5 inches.
Oh, 5 inches, I'm sorry.
Okay.
You're not losing.
Yeah, that's different. It's not a hardship of our own making. It's not a financial hardship for us. We're not seeking this because it'll be less expensive if it's granted. Indeed, it'll be a more expensive building to construct. This is not something this is a request that's unique to this site. It's not something that if you grant this variance would have much impact, if at all, anywhere else in the community. And for all those reasons, we feel that it's very appropriate, and we hope that you can approve it. Again, we can build the structure, we can build it at 3 stories, but without the relief, we would have what we feel is just simply not as good looking a building for each one of those new structures that would be built on the site. So happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Madam Chairman.
Go ahead.
Question for you.
Excuse me, Madam Chairman.
Sure.
I'd just like to make a point. Right now, we have 4 people seated. We have another regular member that's absent, Elaine Mata, and I don't know if you would like to designate another alternate for Elaine's spot.
Yeah, thank you. Commissioner Hammond will go ahead and sit for Commissioner Mata, who's absent also. Thank you.
The question I have, if you go to the map where it shows the new outlay of the buildings,
Yes, sir.
is the shaded building the old Montessori school, or is that the building to the right of that?
Daycare center.
Daycare center. You want to, you can.
Yeah.
Sure, Newton Brainerd from the Simon Conover Company. That shaded one right here is the old, well, we had IEC, which is the electrical union contractors were in there, and before that, it was a daycare center.
Okay, all right,
We rented it to them,
okay, all
and
right,
then IEC came in after the daycare.
okay.
It is the old Montessori. Okay, Commissioner Hammond, do you have any questions?
No.
No?
No.
Nope. Commissioner Whalen?
I do. The flatter style roof, is that structurally safe for the building?
Well, you raise a good point. And our architect did mention that to me, and I probably should have stated it to you, that their feeling also is that the peaked roof would be better for snow loads, but of course, it would have to meet any building code requirements. So ultimately, they're not going to build an unsafe
Okay.
structure, but it would be better. Is that, Newt, can you
Yes.
confirm that?
Yeah,
Why don't you do that on the
I'm
record?
a development person, not construction, but yes, it's, the strong preference is not to have a flat roof for maintenance and snow loads and everything else. I mean, obviously, they are built all the time, but for residential, unless you're in a city, what we are proposing is really what is being built all over New England, including in Rocky Hill, stuff that we've built in Connecticut all the way up to Maine, which is just your typical garden-style, 3-story pitched roof.
Thank you. Why don't you stay here in case there are any other questions?
But it would be structurally safe if you had it
course,
without the
of
extra
course,
5
yeah.
feet.
Yep.
Okay. So I'm not sure about looking good is a hardship, looking better for, that's all.
Okay, Commissioner Beatty?
Yes. In the drawing, I guess what my question would be, I see a drawing that has the roof that you would like, and I see one that has sort of a flat roof with a minor pitch. What is the most pitch that you could get in and still be within the current?
You couldn't get a fully pitched roof. You'd have a little
It'd be some-
parapet. You have a little parapet
Yeah.
like this, and then it'd go down and flat.
Okay.
Where 99% of the roof would be flat. You would see just a little pitch that would then go to nowhere.
Okay. You couldn't just make it as big as you could and have a pitch from there, rather than
No.
just, okay.
You need some pitch, and if you can't get enough of the pitch, you'd rather do flat than a low pitch.
And have any neighbors objected, any of the
Not-
people?
Not that I know of, not that we've heard of.
The only communication I am aware of is one person did go into the office. Mr. Pomberg reported that to me and had looked at the plans. And as he related to me, and you can ask him directly, but he said that individual seemed satisfied and in fact had actually commented that the pitched roof is preferential. So, and that was somebody from Marshall Street.
I guess if you had to articulate the hardship in one sentence, what would you say the hardship is?
The hardship is the fact that this is a unique zoning situation because the regulations that impact the development of these structures was never designed to accommodate the multifamily type structure. So we're doing it under an R20 single-family regulation.
Thank you very much.
Okay. I don't have any questions myself. Okay, is there anybody from the public who has questions for the applicant? Please step forward, state your name and address for the record, please. Yes, step up to the microphone. State your name and address for the record, please.
Okay. All right, Kathleen Holden, 33B Robbins Lane, Rocky Hill, and I have a question or two. Number one, will our fire department,
Please speak into the microphone.
Yeah, please speak to the microphone, speak to the,
And
also
address
speak to the.
the chairperson.
Please address us.
Yes, please. Address the commission.
Oh, ma'am,
Go ahead.
can I continue on?
Yes, please.
Okay. I'm concerned about a flat roof for drainage, for what snow we should get, which I doubt we will get too much more. I'm concerned about our fire department and our police department having access to the flat roofs if the occasion arises. And also, if need be, could a helicopter land on them if need be for the fire department, the police department? And can we have security cameras using those flat roofs if they're safe?
Okay, continue, and then we'll have the applicant go ahead and address your questions. Is that all that you had?
Yes, health and safety,
Okay,
always.
okay. Thank
Okay.
you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So I think as we stated before, we will, whether we build pitch roof or flat roof, it will be built to all the relevant codes. We've already had preliminary meetings with the fire department on all sorts of access, and we will continue to meet with them to make sure whatever we ultimately get permitted will be safe for fire, police, and any type of access that needs to happen.
Thank you.
Nothing else particular to Ms. Holden's questions, but if I could just add one other comment, and that is we have also been to the Planning and Zoning Commission for an informal presentation of what it is we would like to do, and we've been working closely with staff. And I would simply like to say an informal does not count for anything. It's not binding in any way, but the reception in all instances has been positive, and we've been working again closely with staff to get plans ready that would pass all technical muster and be ready for approval. So with that, unless you have any other questions for us, the variance process is driven by some very specific considerations that you must take into mind as you decide an application, but the bottom line is they are there as a relief valve, if you will, to be able to assist applicants when there is something about the zoning regulation that doesn't quite work or doesn't allow a development or changes to an existing site to go forward. And there are a lot of things you consider when you make a decision on it. I'm underscoring for you those that have to do with the impact on the community in particular, and the fact that there is nothing that this is not something of our own making. We have a unique situation with the existing zoning, and the site itself is an unusual site, though that doesn't necessarily relate to the height. But again, it's a relief valve. We think we've given you good reasons that you can feel comfortable relying on should you want to make a decision in favor of this. And the bottom line is you're going to have a better product for the town of Rocky Hill if we're able to get the variance. So thank you for your consideration, and I hope you can see to approve the application.
Thank you. Can you just wait for one moment?
Certainly.
I have one
Secretary,
question.
please.
You mentioned that you were talking informally with planning and zoning already. Were you pursuing an opportunity to change the zoning into multifamily?
No, not at all.
Thank you.
No, under the existing regs, yes.
Thank you. Is there anybody here who would like to speak in favor of the application? Anybody speaking not in favor of the application? Hearing none? Okay, can I get a motion to close the public hearing, please?
Make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? No? Okay, we're going to go ahead and close. And let's go ahead and move on to item 2, New business, Appeal 2023-01, Stephanie Place LLC and 1800 Celestine Highway. Can I get a motion, please?
Make a motion to approve.
Okay, do I have a second? Nobody wants a second? Second? Anybody want to, nobody wants a second?
Do you want a second?
Second.
Okay. Discussion,
Discussion, may I?
please.
My house is actually near that corner, it's in the photograph, and the peaked roof would look better. Aesthetically, it's better, but I don't see a hardship here. And what was stated doesn't qualify in my book.
Okay,
I kind of agree. I mean, looking better, it probably would look better, but unfortunately, it doesn't fit the hardship that I feel and the requirement for our variance.
okay. Can I get a vote, please? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 3-2. Passes. No, we need
No, it
4.
doesn't.
Nope, that does not pass. I apologize. Thank you.
Well, that would pass if you seated another member, so you have more than 4.
Right, we did. But we're 3 and 2.
I apologize.
Yep. Okay, item 3, old business. I don't think there's anything. Yep,
Just, Dave, how we doing on New Britain Avenue?
Still ongoing, collecting citations, collecting fines. As far as,
Dave,
the-
I'll tell you something. I don't know what collecting fines is doing, because to me, it hasn't done anything. I mean, I just don't understand what's going on. I really don't. I went by there twice today. It looks as bad as it did 2.5 years ago.
there's a lien on the property. Fines are accruing each day. A hearing was held. Fines were reduced, and they've reaccrued to higher than the previous amounts. The 2 owners, occupants of the house, are in their 90s. We're not getting any response. We've had several discussions in which agreements were made and then not followed through on. The next step is court action and removing the vehicles with more significant costs to correct the situation.
Do we know if there's any leakage from any of the vehicles, any gas that might be in there, any oil that might be in there that's seeping into the ground?
I'm not aware of any, but I haven't been able to inspect under the vehicle.
'Cause I'm wondering if this could be a thing, get deep involved.
Potentially.
Like I said, I just don't understand it.
Yeah, and he's.
It's unresponsiveness of the property owner, and fines are accruing while it's unresponsive. Court action is needed, which won't be immediate, to physically remove the vehicles. So it's kind of at a headway.
Did you want to say something?
No, I understand.
Yeah.
It's difficult all around.
Yep. Okay, all right. Any other business?
Do we approve the schedule for
Nope.
this year?
That's,
We need to,
that's
meetings.
now, too, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, could I get a motion to approve the 2023 meeting schedule, please?
Motion to approve.
Okay, second?
Second? Oh,
Okay. Discussion?
I'm sorry, who made the motion?
Oh, no,
John.
John,
Yeah,
yes, you are. No, you're not voting.
okay.
Sure.
Franny?
Fran made
Fran
the
did.
motion.
Franny? Okay, discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
aye.
Aye.
Okay, 9, nobody there, okay. Let me circle back to business. I just have a quick question. What's going on in Gilbert Ave?
As far as the tree clearing? Yeah. There were several hazard trees and a lot of trees that were being taken over by vines and such, that every major storm, we were having trees falling on the wires or on the roadway. So Public Works has been clearing up to the right-of-way line, on both sides, basically, to remove those hazard trees and the invasive vines.
Okay. Was hoping to have be a turn lane going in there. Okay, can I get a motion to adjourn?
How about
We have to
approving
approve
the
minutes?
Oh, I'm sorry, my bad, jumping ahead. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes of our September 20th, 2022 meeting? My gosh.
Fran did.
Okay, second,
Second.
discussion, hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, nope. So approved, okay, now can we get a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned, thank you.